Hi guys, Allison here, the Introspective Wife. If you haven't noticed, I am rebranding. I have changed my name at least. I have a lot of stuff to still figure out, but today we're going to talk about a little bit why I wanted so badly to change my name. It just wasn't suiting me anymore. I live in a country and experiencing a whole new culture. We've been traveling quite a bit, and there's just been a lot going on. So between writing and trying to make the podcast and doing all this stuff and being a housewife, that's still very much a part of who I am, but I'm not bored. So I no longer could stand to look at the Bored Housewife name. I needed to refresh and change it and, just do something new. So unfortunately, I wish I would have thought it all out a little bit. I was so impulsive about changing the name that there's still some stuff that I want to do a little bit differently here. Nothing major, but I just haven't quite worked everything out yet. But that's not what today is about. And I know we were supposed to talk about Camus. If you sign up for the monthly newsletter, I'm really sorry. I'm totally scrapping September. I don't know if we're going to get to Camus for this month or not. It's just, I kind of got to see what I have going on. And in the meantime, we're going to talk about some new things about the new name and just fun stuff like that. So anyways, if you've been enjoying these episodes, if you're digging the new name, please share with your friends and anybody that you find, that you think would find this podcast interesting. I would still love to continue to try to grow our community. That's part of the reason why I've changed the name. I think that it fits what we're doing here a little bit better. And then also check out the link. I still have my social media, and you can still subscribe to the email list. All the links for the link tree are there in the description. So if you guys want to check those out, that would be awesome. Anyways, let's cheers, guys. Let's get to it. So first I want to talk about where the name came from. I was trying to come up with so many different alternatives that were better fitting, and I was having a really hard time. And then also it's so hard to come up with an original name that isn't already taken on the internet. So I was looking up contemporary housewife or contemporary wife. I was looking up I can't remember the other ones. Let's see here. Not your average housewife. So there's a few things that I was kind of looking at, and I went to the thesaurus and looked up contemporary and synonyms for contemporary, and introspective came up, or introspection came up. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So introspection, I'm sure you guys know what it means, but in case you don't, it is one's mental and one's examination, of their mental and emotional state. So it's what we do exactly here at the now Introspective Housewife. Introspective is just the characteristic of introspection. So I thought that was super fitting. I'm definitely, if you've been here for a while, I think I'm definitely someone that's constantly analyzing myself and my surroundings, and I encourage you all to do similar things in your own lives, especially when things aren't necessarily going the way that you want them to. A lot of self-improvement requires you to have these like conversations and, time to think about yourself in this way. So because we talked so much about that, as well as a bunch of other things, I thought that this new name would be so much more fitting. And I hope you guys like it as much as I do. I think it's kind of cool. There's nobody else has this name, so I was super excited about that. So yeah, I think it's good to, be able to stand out a little bit from the mix. At the same time, I think this much more clearly states the sort of stuff that I want to talk about on the podcast. So, I keep saying like it's just a better fitting name. I want to like be very clear, like I am still a housewife, but that's not all I am. As many of you who are housewives or homemakers or wherever you're at in your life, we're not just this one thing, right? We're multifaceted. We have interests and things outside of what maybe our daily jobs are. So even though I am still very much speaking to the wife or the housewife or the stay-at-home mom, the homemaker, however you like to think about yourself in that way, that is definitely, I think, just because of the stage of life that I'm at, is more my target audience. But this place is definitely welcome to like working parents, men as well, anybody who's like, a stay-at-home spouse or whatever. So I think that this stuff that I talk about is not exclusive just to one group of people. I just like to tend to curate some of the conversations towards the housewife or towards the stay-at-home mom or, somebody in the homemaker in that scenario because it's just a very, difficult position that not a lot of people respect and not a lot of people always like, are willing to talk about in a nice, sort of way. So we are still going to be doing that here, but I just, wasn't associating with the name anymore because, and I don't know if you guys felt like this as well, but like, I think as housewives, like we're definitely not bored. And when I originally came up with that name, it was very cheeky and I was trying to be fun and I was bored, which is the whole reason why I started the podcast. But, it wasn't shortly after the podcast started that we started getting ready to move to Japan and all the stuff in my life was changing. And so I think that that is just a great example of how we have seasons in our lives. And sometimes we have a more quiet time, and then sometimes it's a lot more adventurous and we have a lot more going on. So, yeah, I just don't want you guys to think that like, okay, here I am taking this in a whole other direction. I just hope that you find the name as fitting for what we talk about here as I do. If you don't, that's okay. I don't, it is what it is. But I just didn't feel like, we're not bored here. It's not like we're trying to come up with things to do or whatever. We're doing some really hard work here and we're doing really interesting work. And, for those of you that have been listening and have been following, like, if you take anything into practice, if you read anything that I suggest, like, you are taking yourself a step further than a lot of people in this world do. And just giving yourself the opportunity to think a little bit more outside the box and also take ownership over your life in a way that is not usually talked about. So I think that all of us here in this community, we're not bored. We have a lot going on, and there's still a lot to be done. So, that's the first part of why I needed to change the name. As I mentioned, we have been doing a lot of traveling. My husband is actually deployed right now, but I was able to go meet him in Singapore. And I was home visiting friends and family for several weeks. And earlier this summer, we went to mainland Japan and went to Osaka and Kyoto. And we have more plans to travel in the next few months as well, if everything goes according to plan. So and then with that, I'm also experiencing a new culture and trying to navigate that and, learn the language and, how people interact with each other and get used to the food and all of that. Like, there's just so much going on that when you decide to embrace this sort of lifestyle, like, I could totally just sit back and, like, go shop at the on-base commissary and be, comfortable with my American type foods and all of that, and not really go out to eat or do anything, not care to learn the language, and just kind of stay on the military base. And it honestly probably wouldn't feel too much different from home, other than the fact that, like, it's hard to go see your family, right? But that's not what I want here. I wanted an opportunity to live somewhere in a different country. I've always wanted to do that, and also to get to travel. So it's just been like the perspectives in my life have already been so different. I talked about that in the last few episodes of, like, going back to America and just almost having a little mini culture shock of coming back. Like, you kind of romanticize in your head, like, what your place is like. And so I had this, like, I have this whole idea of America, and then going back there and just how people behave, how people, like, interact with one another. It was really just, a little shocking. I mean, not shocking, but just, like, some of it was kind of off-putting, because I'm like, man, you're really rude. But besides all of that, if you want to listen to that episode, I really get into all of that. But it was just, like, not what I was used to. And so we went to Singapore a few weeks last week. I just got back. I'm exhausted too, by the way. Like, why I decided to change my name. Like, if I could do this all over again, I would have, like, prepared for this a little bit better, and I would have had, like, a whole, like, rebranding launch thing, but I didn't do that. So I just, like, literally got back from Singapore, and I was like, I can't stand this name anymore. It is bothering me so much. But yeah, when we were in Singapore, first of all, I was so nervous to go there because they have a ton of rules. That's the country, it's the city country that doesn't allow you to chew gum, but they have a lot of other rules as well too. So, like, you can't jaywalk. They have a female modesty law, which sounds different than it is. So basically, like, if a man comes on to you, and it could be as simple as, like, trying to pull you out on the dance floor, if you find offense to them, then you can turn them into the police, and they could get in big trouble. What else was there? Like, no drugs of any type. Not that that was going to be a problem anyways, but it's just, like, it's nerve-wracking. And it's one of those things, like, I've never done drugs in my entire life. Like, I've smoked weed one time, okay? But I've never, like, done drugs other than that, and alcohol, obviously. But, well, not obviously, but I like to drink alcohol. So, yeah, so pretty much my drug that I've done is alcohol. And Singapore has these really strict laws if you get caught with any sort of drugs. And I'm just thinking, like, that Bridget Jones movie where, like, the guy hides the, like, cocaine shell thing in her bag, and she gets caught with it. I'm just like, oh my God, what if someone, like, sneaks something in my bag, and then I'm just like, I don't know how it got there. So I was, like, super paranoid. Once I got there, I realized, like, okay, it's not as serious. Like, basically, if you're just a decent person, you're not going to get in trouble for anything, right? But it just puts a lot in perspective. But it was interesting because me and this other wife that also went, we got there at different times. But as soon as we met up with each other, we both were like, wow, it's a lot different than Japan. And Japan, again, guys, it's just, like, one of the kindest, most polite places in the entire world, I think. Maybe the most polite place. I don't know. I've only been to a few places, so we'll see. But it was wild how, like, people would, like, I had a suitcase, and in Japan, people would, like, go out of their way to make sure that you got, like, on the escalator okay, or just, like, let me, not, like, let me help you, but just, like, always kind of, like, everyone's just trying to, like, stay out of each other's way and be considerate. In Singapore, people were, like, purposely cutting me off so they didn't have to stand behind me on the escalator, like, and it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. It's not like at any point I was like, oh my God, but it was just one of those things, like, wow, I guess, like, not, like, I'm not in Japan anymore, so it's just kind of interesting. now getting to compare all these different cultures together. And yeah, and in general too, guys, Singapore was amazing. I really enjoyed that city. I was blown away by the architecture, and they had these beautiful botanical gardens. It was so cool. We had a really good time, and lots of great food and drinks. And they all speak English there, so it was super easy to get around and figure stuff out. Other than a little bit of the rudeness, like it really wasn't that bad. And it's basically just a giant melting pot of people. And so that was really kind of fun too, because I was just hearing all these different people speaking English in different accents. And every once in a while you would hear like a different language. But it was just really cool to see how many people from all over the world live, work, visit there, whatever. So it was a neat experience. But yeah, certainly not bored, right? So, I just like a lot of this, and the reason I'm telling you all this is the stuff that's been kind of going on in my life right now that has just really prompted this new change. And I've been thinking about it for a long time. Again, I wish I had like a better strategy, like putting this out here, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, I think it was being in Singapore. I was like, I can't deal with this name anymore because it's hard to make the podcast even. So there are lots of thoughts like, do I even continue making the podcast, or, where are my priorities and all of that? And so I still want to make the podcast, but I gotta like try some different stuff. So, the next coming weeks are definitely going to be, back and forth, like me trying new things, or maybe it not seeming different at all. It's just like, because I have another trip coming up, and so it's just like I really need probably like a good month where I don't have anything going on, where I can like really kind of figure out and navigate a path a little bit better. I just haven't had the time, and traveling takes a lot out of you. Like, I've been wanting to travel my entire life and be one of those jet setters. And I gotta tell you, I don't know if I'm cut out for it. I don't know if I'm too old now or what, but it's just really tiring. Like, flying takes a lot out of you. And we had some really horrible weather here in Japan. There was a typhoon. I don't know if you guys heard about it or not. It didn't like actually hit the island, but it created a lot of bad weather. And the turbulence flying back from Singapore to Japan was probably some of the worst I've ever had. There's only one other time that I thought like for sure we're going to crash, and that was like flying into Colorado. This didn't feel like we were going to crash. It was just really long, consistent turbulence, and that, like, I thought I was actually going to throw up on the plane, and I've never felt like that before, so that was new. But, like, because of where we're at in Okinawa, I got to fly to, like, mainland Japan, and then from mainland, I fly out to the other destinations. I don't know if it's, like, the ticket prices are too high or what, but there's not always a lot of, like, places out of Okinawa that I can, like, fly to directly. So like, oh, that was another experience, guys. I stayed in one of those pods. I'm going to try to like make a post or something this week and maybe like share some of this. I don't know if you guys are interested in that to see on my social media stuff. But yeah, by the way, this podcast is just like totally me rambling today. Okay. I had some notes, but here we are. So we're just rambling. But yeah, I stayed in one of those pods, and it was really kind of fun. I'm going to stay in another one to the next place we're going. I can't say where I'm going. I'll tell you guys when I get back. But yeah, so I get to stay in a pod again. And basically, it kind of felt like maybe a hostel, I guess. But like just kind of like a not cleaner. I never like stayed in a hostel where I like share the rooms, I guess. It just felt like more uniform, I guess. And they give you these pajamas to wear. It's like kind of like a robe thing that you wear. There's showers, toilets, sinks, all of that. You get a locker to put your stuff in. And then you go into this room that's just full of pods. And you got to be really quiet. And then when you get into your pod, you have like a little curtain thing that you close down. And then your pod has lights on it or lights in it. And so you can like turn them off. There's like little music that you can play. Yeah, it was a neat experience. I thought it was going to feel really claustrophobic, but I mean, it wasn't bad. And it wasn't like comfortable, but it wasn't uncomfortable either. So like it wasn't, I think as Americans, we're really used to like really squishy, like fluffy beds and stuff. It was not like that, but I didn't sleep horribly. So anyways, but yeah, I'm just having all of these new experiences, and through having them, it's making me think about a lot of stuff in my life and like what's going on and how I like approach different scenarios, and how I want to continue to approach my life. And I think that's something that's really cool with traveling and going to other countries. It gives you a really neat perspective to see where you're at. And this is something I've been waiting for like 13 years. So ever since I left home, like traveling has been one of the things I've wanted to do, but I just didn't have money, or I didn't prioritize it the right way, I guess. I lived in New York City. It's very expensive, and it was really hard to save my money, and I prioritized other things instead of trying to travel. And then when I got to LA, I tried to travel a little bit more, but it really wasn't until I met my husband. And honestly, like part of that too is because I'm just not working right now. So I have time to go do stuff and to plan things for us, which is super neat. And like we've been able to do really cool trips around America as well because I'm not, focused on working. So there's just a lot going on. But I'm not bored anymore. Did I make that clear? I'm not bored anymore. I am still a housewife, and I still identify as a housewife to some extent. But there's just so much other things going on in my life that and just so much of what we do here and what we talk about here, again, like I said, and I'm going to start to probably wrap it up here, because otherwise I'll just continue to ramble and ramble and ramble. But what we're doing here is not exclusive to housewives or homemakers, which is why I changed my name to the Introspective Wife and not the Introspective Housewife, just because I wanted to make it a little bit more inclusive for women in general, or women in this kind of stage of their lives, because I think even if you're a working wife or a working mother, you can still get so many benefits out of what we talk about here. Or again, like if you're a husband or a male of some sort, like even just women, this isn't, but because I have a female perspective, I think that's why like I'm inclined to talk about this stuff in that way. And I talk so much, and I still will talk from my experiences and from, the things that seem relevant in my life that I think might also be relevant in other people's lives, and the stuff that I see on social media that kind of, oh, this is kind of trending, this is a conversation that's going on, and so let's talk about this, So this is, there's still going to be, I am a housewife. I have these certain things going on in my life. So, yeah, that's still going to be there. But I just wanted to create something that wasn't so specific, even though they tell you to create things more specific. But I just didn't think, I'm a wife, for sure. I'm a wife. I do identify as a housewife to some extent, but that's not all I am. And I think that maybe even through making this podcast and through the, thinking and the conversations that we have on here and the things that, the ideas that provoke different thoughts and everything, it's like we're so much more than these little labels that we put on ourselves. And so if you want to identify as something, identify as it, right? If you don't, you don't. And I think I identify way more with a wife who happens to stay home than maybe a housewife. So that's where I'm at, but I hope that wherever you're at in your life and whatever stage you're at and whatever, if you're new here or if you've been here for a while, I hope that you still find all of this relevant and interesting. And yeah, I think that's about it. I could continue to ramble, but I'm not going to do that. So let me know what you guys think. Some of you have already noticed the name change and said that you like it, so I really appreciate that. I'm glad that it's overall is going well so far. But yeah, if you guys have any comments or concerns or ideas or thoughts, opinions, whatever you got going on, I'd love to hear from you. You can comment or reach out to me on social media or through email or whatever. Yeah, it would be great to hear from you guys. So again, hope you like the new name. Hope you like the new things that I'm going to be bringing. We'll go back to episodes that have a focus and aren't just me going on and on and on and on and on. But it's going to be a minute. Like, I mean, I'm still making episodes, but like I said, I'm in a weird place because like I'm trying to like do new things and I just don't really have the time for it. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks I can have some time to be able to like really focus and like get some cool ideas out there and stuff. But just be patient with me because it's coming. It's just a matter of figuring it out. So, all right, that's all. Thank you guys for joining me for another week's episode. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And cheers. I'll see you soon. Bye.